Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are going to review a new product we've been working on for the past few months, a tool that will benefit Java developers and help boost their productivity in their day-to-day tasks. But before we get there, let's take you through some background and explain why and how we came up with this idea. My name is Mohamed. I am a Java developer and software architect. I wrote my first line of Java code back in 2007. And starting from 2010, I accumulated professional experience as a Java developer in various industries. In 2021, just after the release of Java 17, I also started two open source Java libraries for Project and Diesel. Both libraries require Java 17 as a minimum and fall into the category of what is known as Java Annotations processors. As of January of this year, the latest version of Repo offers 3 annotations, while Diesel offers 6. What began as a single-person work is now the collaborative work of a small team of engineers. And as a team, we are pleased to announce that the upcoming versions of Repo and Diesel will come with interesting new features that will be offered through 1-year annotation for Repo and 2 additional annotations for Diesel. Since the introduction of annotations, starting with Java 5 back in 2004, there has been a proliferation of annotations processors. Just like for Repo and Diesel, all of these libraries you see on this slide started with only a few annotations and ended up offering hundreds today. Now, having to deal with that amount of annotations doesn't come without challenges. Let's show you a practical example with this code snippet. Let's say as a junior Java developer, I'm given this code, which is using Hibernate framework. And because I don't have too much experience with Hibernate, I don't know much about these annotations you see there. So I want to start by Googling or searching information about the generated annotation you see here. So what will typically happen as a junior developer is I will go to my search engine and typically enter the name generated like this. Let's start, So as you can see, if we enter generated like this, what we see is the very first search result has nothing to do with the generated annotation from Hibernate or any other library. So let's say I assume that the search engine is smart enough to know that if I enter Java generated, it's going to get me the right one. Indeed, I get something good here, which is the generated annotation from Java 8, the one from Java 11, and so on. But I'm still not seeing the generated annotation I'm interested in, which is the one from Hibernate. Right? So let's keep going. And here, the interesting thing here is I'm seeing a mention or a reference to Lombok generated annotation. So I'm just learning that Lombok, the Lombok library also offers the generated annotation. And as I keep going down, I'm still not seeing anything referring to the generated annotation from Hibernate. Now, if we go back to the search and do this, that's where I guess I get something. Here, I have a little bit of documentation coming from another website. But what I'm really looking for here is, in Java, we typically have the Java page of a class or annotation or interface or anything, which is showing up somewhere down there after scrolling down a bit. And that's where I finally get to see or to find the Java page of the generated annotation from Hibernate. So if you kept track of how long it took going from the code snippet to the search engine entering search queries, and then scrolling until we find the Java page of the annotation we are interested in. We roughly spent like 5 minutes. Okay, so this is typically what happens on the field when a developer who doesn't have much knowledge of some annotations that are new to him, for example. That's what happened. That's typically the kind of three challenges that he encountered, you know, searching through search engines and then encountering annotations with the same name, you know, name collision situations, and spending 5 minutes or sometimes even more than that. Now, we reached out to the developers also. Okay, we didn't just everything by ourselves, and then we sent an online survey about a month ago to developers to get their opinion about this kind of situations. And from these 63 responses, over 55% confirm that they do make use of search engines, just like we did now with Google. Yes, so there are other ways also. Some people use or access the official documentation of the libraries, or maybe the online tutorials and so on. But as we can see, the majority is still making use or prioritizing the use of search engines. When it comes to the naming collision situations, here, as we can see, we have, if we put together those who encounter that situation frequently, regularly, and occasionally, we are almost at 90%, which is really significant. And when it comes to the overall time spent by people, well, as we can see, only 27% of the people spend less than 5 minutes researching when they research information about annotations, which is leaving almost 70%, or maybe even a bit more, spending more than 5 minutes always. So when we considered all of these challenges and then the feedback received from the developers, we put them together and then came up with the definition of some requirements, which led us to architect and implement our first cloud-based solution, which we choose to call Java Annotations Repo, or JAPO for short. Behind JAPO lies an extensive database with the information of all annotations, along with the associated Maven artifact information as well. One very important feature JAPO offers is the ability to get the latest update information on a daily basis, which means whenever the new version of Hibernate, for example, is released, it will take up to 24 hours to see the update reflected in JAPO. All of the information from JAPO database can be searched through partial match queries, so that you don't have to type in the entire name of an annotation or artifact. One last interesting feature, which will be very helpful to not only annotations users, but also custom annotations creators, is the stats endpoint. This endpoint provides a great level of transparency regarding how annotation names are used or even searched across all existing Java libraries and projects. Now let's summarize all of the JAPO features in 3 key advantages you gain by using JAPO. Offering flexible search for operations and instantly returning detailed information is what positions JAPO as a lightning-fast search tool for the Java developers. As we saw earlier, when we were Googling the generator annotation, it could easily take 5 minutes or more to find the corresponding Java page. But with JAPO, a search will take actually just a few clicks or less than a second to return the same information and with even more details. Having the database consistently updated on a daily basis guarantees that for each annotation or artifact, The java.page URL will always remain current, ensuring that JAPO is a great up-to-date documentation tool for the Java developers. And with the insights provided by the stats endpoint, JAPO becomes an essential decision-making tool for all the Java developers, especially those who are struggling to choose names for their custom annotations. The current version of JAPO is available exclusively as a REST API. Additionally, we've designed a single web page created only to describe the API endpoints and allow some quick testing. Now, let's quickly see how JAPO works. This short demo. So here is the home page of JAPO, but it's, as I mentioned before, it's a simplified page which is created only to describe the endpoints somehow, to document them a bit for you guys to do some quick testing and know how to use them. So here we have the most important endpoints here, which are the search endpoint, the start endpoint, and the submission endpoint. Those are not all of them. There are a few other endpoints. We will see some of them when we start using each one of those. But if you want to know all of the endpoints, you just have to click on the link to the Swagger Hub documentation page where you have all of them. Now, let's go ahead and check the search endpoint. The search endpoint allows you to search by either annotation simple name or qualified name, or also artifact name. You can also search the Maven libraries will have annotations. So here, if we go back to the example we just saw, the costing pair we just saw, now we were dealing with the generated annotation, right? So to search the same annotation here, we have two ways where we can search either by simple name or search by qualified name. The difference between the two, as explained here, is by simply having the dot sign inside the search query. If you have the dot sign, the search will automatically switch to search by qualified name. So for now, let's do a search by simple name. Now, to do the search by simple name, all you have to do is to enter just part of the simple name of the annotation. It doesn't have to be the entire name. It doesn't even have to be necessarily the very first letter. It could be anything in the middle like this, because we are looking for generated. So we can just use this one right here. So once you click search, you will have now here what you have here is a JSON response, as we explained already, where it's a REST API. So you should expect to see JSON as responses, same way JSON has sent also as a request. Now, each JSON response, as you can see here on this page, is always contain three different sections, which is the header section, the result section, and the success or figure section. This section is a dynamic one. Let's just focus on the two first ones. The header here is meant to return just the same information that you requested, right? So it's the requested data, which is the URI, the query you typed in, the search by, which is by default always search by annotation, and the page you sent in by default. Even if you don't enter a page as part of the query parameters, it's always one. The valid flag here is to say whether or not there is an error in your request or not. Now, the results section here, the results section here has three main sections. First one is the count, which is the amount of entries returned from JAPO database and containing the query that you entered here, which is in that case all of the annotations which has a simple name containing the query you entered here. So we have 30 here. Now what comes next is the pagination information here. By default, each page returns 10 items maximum. So here you have 30 items out of 10. So we have 30 items being returned in total. So that would mean that we are going to be dealing with 3 pages. So that's why you have the current information here, current page information indicating the current page out of the total amount of pages. And here, next is simply the link to the next page. And once we are on the next page, you will have another entry here saying previous, and then showing you the link to the previous page. Now that's for the pagination information. Let's go to the list of items returned. Now here we have to explain a bit before going on. We are currently performing a search by simple name and not by qualified name, which means the search by simple name, but the way the search by simple name behaves is not exactly the same way the search by qualified name behaves. Here, the search by simple name takes in part of the name you are searching for, and now it will return to you all of the simple names that contain your search query. And it's only after you find out that you have one of the entries is the simple name you were looking for, in this case generated. Yeah. In this case generated. That's when you will then have to click another link that will show you all of the existing annotations qualified name, okay, who use the same simple name. Now here you have simple name generated, which is what we are looking for. And you have these 2 information here, which is the amount of annotations and the amount of artifact where you will find that simple name. Why we have 3 is because, as you just remember, on Google, when we were searching, we saw that we had not only Hibernate, but also Lombok and also Jakarta, who offer the same generated annotations. So those are the equivalent of the 3 annotations in 3 artifacts here. That's how we should be read here. We have generated in 3 annotations, from 3 annotations in 3 artifacts. There are cases, we've seen cases where you might see one annotation simple name existing within the same library under 2 different packages. In that case, you might see 3 annotations in 2 artifacts, which means 2 of them are in one and the other one is in one. So, okay, here we have the perfect case of a 3 of one-on-one here, 1 annotation for 1 Maven artifact. Now, to like I mentioned, this link here is going to show you all annotations. Actually, all the detailed information of each annotation having this simple name. And why you have this ID here is simply because this simple name has this 256 ID here. So now, let's take a look. So here now you will see, as we just mentioned, now we have 1 annotation which is from Jakarta, the other which is from Lombok, and the other one from Hibernate, which is the one we are looking for. So let's stop here and explain. Now, this endpoint here will return to you all the detailed information of each annotation having this simple name, the generated simple name. So when it comes to the Hibernate generated annotation, we have the simple name return, the qualified name return, the deprecated information also return, the Java.doc URL, which is what we just saw now when we were looking on Google. Yes, so the good thing here is that we didn't have to go through Google and scroll, and then JAPO was able to return that to us directly because everything is stored in the database and all. So that's how you easily go from the search keyword to the Java.doc page of an annotation. And here you have another endpoint, which is this one, just like that's just like a link describing one annotation, and this is the kind of link you can just share with your colleagues in order to give them or to have them access all the detailed information of one specific annotation. And additionally, you have the information, detailed information of the corresponding or associated Maven artifact. In this case, we are dealing with Hibernate or Core with this group ID right here, artifact ID, version information, the latest version information actually, the release date of the latest version, and a bunch of other additional information, such as here, for example, the total amount of annotation found in this artifact, which is 205. So that's okay. That gives us enough information for us to know which Maven artifact we are dealing with. So that's basically how the search goes by simple name. Now, let's say we want to do a search by qualified name in that case. Well, as we mentioned, to perform a search by qualified name, you need to enter the dot anywhere in the name, right? But you have to also understand that the search is a partial match, so it's gonna go to the word, the qualified name of each annotation, and find exactly the any annotation name that contains dot in there in this case. So if we are expected to see the generated annotation return from this search by qualified name, we won't have anything, which is normal, right? It will be an empty list because we are dealing with an annotation with the qualified name or dot Hibernate dot annotations dot generated. So it has to be dot generated like this. And that's where you will get something returned. And now the big difference between this and the previous search, as you can see, this one won't have to, each entry won't offer us an additional link that will then return the qualified name based on the simple name, but those will be direct links to see the qualified name or the detailed information of annotation returned here by qualified name. So in this case, we are having all of the annotation containing the keyword dot gener, and let's look for our here we have Lombok generated, Jakarta percent generated, Jakarta annotation generated value also, and the Hibernate annotation is here, the one we've been looking for, and that's where we can just do a click and see all of the detailed information of that annotation and associated Maven artifact. So that's it for the search endpoint. You can also search by artifacts. I will let you, I'll leave that to you. You guys can take a look and access the page and try it. Now, yeah, before we go to the start endpoint, I will quickly mention something about the submission endpoint. As you can see, all of this information come directly from JAPO database, and we, on a regular basis, scan, all existing artifacts that contain annotations, and once we find them, we enter them into our system, into the database of JAPO. So there are possibilities that we forgot some annotations, or maybe some new annotations or new libraries came up today, or in the coming future they came out and we didn't hear about them, so we might have forgotten them. So if you know about any of those, you can just come here and use the submission endpoint and enter the information of the artifact, the Maven artifact, and the list of the annotations, and then submit. We will review that manually, and then we will add those if they are valid. Right? We will check everything, and then we will add them to the JAPO database. Now, talking about the stats endpoint, as I mentioned, this is an endpoint that will really be helpful to people who create custom annotations. Okay, so we have this endpoint returns a bunch of data, statistics data. We define them by keywords, as you can see here, along with definitions to explain exactly what they do. Right? There are a bunch. There will be more. We are gonna be adding as many as possible in the coming weeks, so that you will see how very useful it can be for annotations creators. So here, for example, we have this is an endpoint that returns the total amount of all annotations we have. This is actually like the same information you see right here. Actually, each one of these information you see here come from the start endpoint here. So when it comes to annotation count, here you have the total amount of all annotations and the list of all of them sorted by qualified name alphabetically. So that's something that can help if you really want to browse the entire list of all annotations. Now, apart from that, we also retain the list of all deprecated annotations, which is that, as we just saw now, for each one of the annotations we get, we have the deprecated flag indicating whether it's deprecated or not. And it's a common thing to have deprecated annotations in libraries, Java libraries, and we don't even know about why sometimes it happens in a new version of a library, and it's only when we compile everything that we see that. So we just get here an option for the start endpoint to return you all of the deprecated annotation from all existing Maven artifacts. So here you can see each one of them sorted alphabetically by qualified name, and if you want to see their information, you just have to click this link. Apart from that, we have also the list of built-in JDK built-in annotations. We all know Java JDK comes by default with some predefined annotation types. We might not always remember exactly all of them, how many they are, and yeah, we can see there are 11, and there are all of them. You can browse through them also. Now, another endpoint that might be really helpful here is the one returning naming collisions. So we are talking about annotation names, simple names, which are used in more than one artifact. We just saw that now with the generated annotation and all, but here this endpoint goes to the entire database of JAPO and scan the entire database and return all of the simple names that are used in more than one artifact and the amount of artifact where you will find them. So for generator, we already saw that it can be found in 3 artifacts here, and there are many others here, and some show up in 3, some in 2, and so on. So this list will be growing also. Let's see. We go to the next page. Yeah, most of them. Yeah. So these are the kind of information that can be useful if you are planning to create a new custom annotation. For example, let's say, for example, you want to create something named builder, and you want to have an idea how many existing Maven artifact or Java libraries already use the same name or the same annotation. So you come here and you see that there are already 2 or 3 or 4. So that will give you an idea whether you should use the same name or use something, maybe add something that will make it different from the rest, for example. So that's how JAPO helps as a decision-making tool. And there are many others here. Here you have articount, which is the total amount of artifacts. Same way, you will see the list of all of them. You have the most searched annotation names, the most searched artifact information, the artifact with most unknown, and so on. All right, so that's basically it for the endpoint of JAPO. As I already mentioned, this link takes you to the Swagger Hub documentation for all, all the APIs, not only these 3. And here we have our contact information in case you find out about a bug. Nothing is perfect. There might be a bunch of stuff behind that we haven't seen. And in case you have any other feedback or inquiry, so you can let us know through this contact information. All right, so this is it about JAPO. Let's go back to the presentation. There we go. All right, now we know that as Java developers, we're always interested in knowing what's beyond what, right? Like what technology we use behind the tool, the software solution, and so on. So yeah, JAPO is a cloud-based solution, and the code base is Java 17. We started coding in Java 17, and very soon we will be migrating to Java 21, which is the latest release. LTS just released last month. And I will add that JAPO is currently making good use of the text search capabilities of Amazon OpenSearch. So that's just one interesting detail we found this interesting to add. And there is a bit more than just OpenSearch and Java 17 and their solution being cloud-based. There is more behind, and we will reveal those later with time. For now, we are more interested in presenting the products and so on. Now, the team behind JAPO, well, as I mentioned before, now we are a team, a small group of engineers, and our primary target here is the Java developers. Okay, we aim at boosting Java developers' productivity with our products. Okay, we started with Repo and Diesel, which help when you are transiting from the old version of Java, Java 11 and older version, to Java 17. Okay, and now JAPO is one additional tool for that, all of them aiming at the same thing, helping Java developers, and we are planning more to come in the future. All right, thank you.